maybe take the break. Maybe take the tolerance break. There's always benefit in it. But maybe don't push yourself right now to do it. Say, okay, you know what? This bearded hippie dude on the internet, I think he's onto something maybe. And there is a lot of stress. There is a lot of anxiety or some essence of it. I'm not, generally speaking, happy right now. I have my moments, but overall, like, there's something missing. If that fits, then I would highly suggest working on the things related to rewiring the mind, the path within. Go down that road for a little while. And then see where you're at. And now for something completely different. Welcome to another episode of Stillcast. This time, we're just hanging out with Phil. And that's it. I don't know how long I'm going to talk for. This one might be short. I had an idea to create a video for the TikToks, but currently my camera is being used to export a video, and my phone is a part of that process. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just use the computer to do it. Ain't nothing gonna stop this train from sharing the voice it wants to share. You know what I'm saying? As long as I have technology and internet and stuff. The thought that I had today was related to cannabis, which is, you could say a big, massive part of my journey overall, and what started my path on the interwebs, and now working with people one-on-one, and God knows wherever else this thing's going to go. But anyhow, the thought was related to, I've made content about this before where someone feels that cannabis is holding them back, right? So if someone feels that cannabis is holding them back from their career achievements or their job in any form or their relationships or just life as a whole, there is almost always something deeper. And when I say that, I mean that there was a reason, generally speaking, that the person unconsciously went to cannabis in the first place. When I work with people one-on-one and we talk about cannabis, we oftentimes go to, well, when you first started really smoking a lot, was there some kind of something that happened that maybe was challenging to process emotionally at the time that you really, took to it? And there almost always is. Sometimes the person has not thought about it, but, so that's where it's from. These unconscious walls that we build when we're younger, when we're kids, to maintain some level of security, to figure out where we fit in this world, to prove ourselves, to achieve the love of those around us or the approval of those around us, and there's all sorts of reasons as to why that is. But oftentimes when someone feels that it's holding them back, it's because of that indoctrinated belief, in addition to how their mind is operating on a day-to-day basis. So if they feel like it's holding them back, there's most likely different levels of stress in the individual. And when they're utilizing cannabis, they're doing it unconsciously. They're, doing it at the end of the day for a wind down or something. And, they're vegging out and watching Netflix series until the end of the night. Or, they're playing video games until the end of the night. Or they're just in negative thought patterns. Or it's triggering anxiety. There's a lot of, even if it's not audible thought, just this feeling of being behind. And so it's a combination of all of these things. And so when I work with someone one-on-one, I'm always saying, hey, let's first start with, if you haven't already, let go of cannabis, let's first start with how we can shift our state of being, our mind, our relationship to ourself and our emotions and how we process them. All of the things related to rewiring the mind and cultivating happiness from within, which is possible scientifically. It's no longer just woo-woo stuff. There was a Nobel Prize winner that happened recently in the last year, I believe, that basically proved, by way of, I believe, quantum physics, that what we perceive as reality is a projection. That quote-unquote local reality is not real. As we've perceived it to be, and if you're not familiar with like quantum physics, I always push people that have resistance to these ideas to do their own research, and anyone to do their own research. But there's a plethora of information out there that supports this, and it's becoming more and more common knowledge. one could say that there is a mass awakening going on right now, and I would believe that is true, whereas a previous version of myself would say that's hogwash and hippie woo-woo talk. But it's not like a mass awakening. Like, the way I used to look at it is like, oh, so yeah, there's a bunch of hippies that are, doing a bunch of drugs and psychedelics, and they're, playing with their crystals and whatnot, and they're not doing life. So because they're not doing life, they're having a good time. And while that may be the case for, a lot of people out there, there's something deeper here. And I think that even furthermore, that's more subconscious indoctrinated belief, that vantage point, tying to a bunch of different things. One of those being that we all grow up feeling like we have to strive to prove our value or achieve something in order to get to a place of happiness. That happiness is reserved for those that achieve certain levels of success or whatever the fuck, or it comes in fleeting moments with social gatherings or a funny scene in a movie or a show and things of that nature. But that's just because that's how the mind has operated for so long. So someone who has this feeling that cannabis is holding them back, they would undoubtedly, and you know what, if that person, if you're listening to this right now, if you fit that mold, maybe take the break, maybe take the tolerance break. There's always benefit in it, but maybe don't push yourself right now to do it. Say, okay, you know what, this bearded hippie dude on the internet, I think he's on to something maybe. And there is a lot of stress, there is a lot of anxiety or some essence of it. I'm not, generally speaking, happy right now. I have my moments, but overall, like, there's something missing. If that fits, then I would highly suggest working on the things related to rewiring the mind, the path within. Go down that road for a little while and then see where you're at. Either one, you realize that, oh shit, cannabis really is apparently some form of a spiritual teacher that shows you what is beneath or amplifies your average resting state of being. And there's all sorts of other conversations talking about the potential long-term effects of carcinogens, etc., all these things. But cannabis itself, there's more and more science that shows that everything we thought about it is not correct. And that, again, societal belief, it's more about control of the cannabis from, the powers that be than it is about how the cannabis affects you. That's not such a surprise if you look into this stuff. So if this resonates with you, shift your relationship with yourself, shift your relationship with cannabis, and see where it takes you. Part of that is when we catch ourselves, part of this journey as a whole is catching ourselves in unconscious thought patterns and working to reframe them or just practice the awareness of them. Talk to ourselves, wonder where that came from, but not lose ourselves down the trail, but the ongoing practice of framing training, as I like to call it. We're consistently working with our mind, priming our mind, catching ourselves when we're in unconscious states, going to gratitude, thinking about things that excite us, thinking about things we're thankful for, thinking about the people we love, memories that were so fun to experience, and going back in our mind and experiencing them and bringing a smile to our face without the attachment, oh man, I wish I could go back. No. Just, it's part of your story. Bask in the glory of the story and the different components of it. Neville Goddard is a fantastic source of some woo-woo stuff. If you're on the train, you're like, hey, let's go to woo-woo town. Neville Goddard is fucking awesome. If you're resistant to woo-woo town and you're just getting started on this path, maybe don't go to Neville Goddard. But one of the things that he talks about, and he was one of the forefathers of the work of rewiring the mind, the art of manifestation, which I believe now wholeheartedly is real, but it's not as simple as what it's made out to be oftentimes on the interwebs. That there's deeper levels to it, and it's all really rooted to the core subconscious belief around a thing. Not saying you can manifest a Lamborghini tomorrow, like that's not what I'm talking about, but if you look up the definition of manifesting, it's not what the common viewpoint of it is. And so with this ongoing practice of awareness, we do this alongside of cannabis as well. We notice ourselves either going to it unconsciously, or we've already started and then we go, oh shit, I just did this unconsciously, whatever it is. But it's never like, fuck man, I'm fucking up. It's like, oh, here's another one of those patterns. Because what you're doing is you're working to rewire patterns in the neurological network of your brain, the relation to things, the emotions behind things, all this stuff. It's an ongoing journey. But if you're practicing the awareness around when you're utilizing or when you're going to cannabis unconsciously, then it's more like you're using it, right? And so if we catch those moments, like, okay, all right, like say you're going to it, and then you catch it. Wait, I'm going to it unconsciously. All right, take a pause. Why do I want to go to this right now? And you may not hear a voice back, but you may have a new thought that emerges because you ask that question audibly. And there's a lot of science that goes into the power of self-talk, audible self-talk, the power of positive talk versus negative talk. Same thing with internal, but external is more powerful. It's not just woo-woo stuff. There's something to it, but it's an ongoing practice. And this is in all aspects of life. And most of the time when I'm working with clients, we're working on all the other aspects of life, because the principle around or the idea around cannabis and practicing framing and reframing with cannabis, that's a simple one to begin to implement, etc. And if you're doing it in other areas of your life, then you see the benefit, and it takes away from the negativity or the perceived negativity of cannabis. So if we notice that we're going to cannabis unconsciously, okay, wait, why am I doing this right now? Because it's been a long day and this is what we do. All right, well, we know now, we're aware, it makes sense that the process is the rewiring of the mind, and this is a fantastic place to do it. So how about, before I indulge in cannabis, I'm going to do some work on my mind first. I'm going to replay my day, reframe the different components of my day, the different aspects of my day. If there's certain parts of my day that I feel like were negative or not so good, I'm going to actively reframe them. I'm going to take some deep breaths, maybe go outside, go for a walk if possible. And just go through the day and reframe the day in a positive way, and then ask ourselves again, do I still want to smoke? And if so, hey, let's do it. Now we've at least put ourselves in a good state of mind. It's totally different when it's been a long day, or man, all this stuff is getting to me, and then we indulge in cannabis. You get a different effect from cannabis. That's the reality of it. So maybe take a tolerance break, maybe. But if any of this resonates with you, I would highly suggest starting with the work related to rewiring your mind first. See where it takes you. Tell yourself, all right, you know what? I really do feel like I need to quit weed, but maybe he's onto something. All right, I'm going to give this shit like 30 days or 3 months or whatever, and go from there. And if I still want to quit at that point, then I can. Here's the thing. If you really feel like you're going to quit, like, yes, I'm definitely going to do it, it will also be easier to quit or to take a break or to tolerance break or whatever it is, if you do that. If you're intrigued to learn more about the science of cannabis, I would highly recommend looking into Riley Kirk or Ryan Sprague. I'm going to be doing a joined live TikTok with Ryan Sprague and probably more in the future. So you'll probably see that more if you're on TikTok. He was on the Aubrey Marcus show, which is how I learned about him. Still blows my mind in a beautiful way that I had him on my podcast too, and that we're now, friends doing the same thing. We're brothers, friends and brothers doing the same work. Granted, now he is someone who he's studied cannabis intensely. He's been around it his whole life, cultivates it, grows it, helps people. He has things that you can do if you want to do like meditations with cannabis. He has a whole program with that kind of stuff. Super cool. But if you're wanting to dive deeper into dismantling the unconscious perception that cannabis is bad for you or that it's holding you back, learning from someone like Ryan Sprague or Riley Kirk. And Riley Kirk on the internet is I like to say cannabitchum because it sounds funny, but that's probably not how she pronounces it. So it's it's like you're spelling cannabis, but then at the B it's ICHEM. And I did a podcast with both her and Ryan. If you have not heard those podcasts, not remembering currently the name of those podcasts, or rather the number, which episode they were. Ryan was first, and Riley was second. Ryan and Riley, how about that? So yeah, I just I wanted to say something. And the original idea was to make a TikTok for this, and maybe I'll make a short and be like, hey, if you want to listen to more, let's go over to there. And so hopefully this helps somebody. And if you want someone in your corner on this journey, that's where I could be a massive benefit to you. And I've had a couple people on my podcast that I've worked with. You can kind of get a feel for what their experience was. One of those is John Connolly. The second is Jason Mazar Kelly. There will be more. I'm also working with people, and I have a couple slots left for this too, where I'm doing a kind of a trade, right? Like instead of my normal rate, it's less than my normal rate in trade that the person is willing to share their journey on my podcast, right? So I've already got a few people on this program, and I'll probably bring in 2 or 3 more. And so what we're doing is we're recording like the second, third, or fourth session, part of it, just to kind of recap where they're at, how they're feeling so far, where they came from, etc. And then again at the end of the 12-week program, and then so that way, and then I'm going to piece it together, each their own individual podcast, or I'll make one with all of them, but probably each individual podcast, so that more people can see. I think that for me, a historical version of myself, I would love that. Like if I was like, maybe I'll work. I don't know if I will. Maybe I will. Oh, there's people that are talking about what it's like. I'll listen to those people and see what they say. So hopefully that helps. I know it'll help in some way. And these people are they're so awesome. I'm so thankful to work with each and every one of them, and that they're willing to share their journey. That will be coming more. There will be more episodes with that. But if we haven't talked before and you've entertained the idea, or you're entertaining the idea, I offer a discovery call at this current moment in my journey. I offer a discovery call to anyone that resonates with my message. There's no cost for that. There's no itinerary or bullet point list, checklist of things I'm going to talk to you about. Everybody is unique. I'm not going to try and fit anybody into a box, but we can learn about each other. I can try to provide some guidance from where you're at in your journey, and it's a good little trial to see if it's a good fit. And if it is, then maybe we can work together. There are many people that can do this work on their own, remain diligent in it, and see the benefits without the need or desire for working with a mindset coach, or any coach for that matter. But there's also a lot of people out there that, when you look at your circle of influence, the friends you have or hang out with or talk to, the people related in your work field that you communicate with day to day, those that are closest to you, family, people in relationships, etc. If nobody in that field of people is doing this work, it can make it more challenging to do it. And that's where one of the biggest benefits in having someone like myself to meet with once a week to help keep you grounded, to help keep you accountable, even though it's not like, did you do this stuff last night? It's not like that. It's never like that. I always tell everybody, come as you are. Wherever you are is fine. We're going to keep working. We're going to keep going. And I've cultivated this level of patience within myself, and now I'm just in a space where it's just so beautiful. I'm thankful for each and every discovery call that I get on, and every session call that I get on, and all the people I've worked with and I'm working with and will work with. I'm just beyond thankful for it. And so in that is real empathy. It's true empathy. It's authentic empathy and patience, and just a vested nature in the growth of those I work with. They're clients on one side, but on the other side, they're my brothers. They're my sisters, And one of my clients is more like an aunt to me, and I love it. She's so sweet and amazing. But yeah, I mean, in reality, we are all family. The only reason we don't look at it that way is because of the indoctrinated subconscious belief. But anyhow, if you're curious to learn more and you want to dive a little bit deeper, let's hop on a call and dive deeper. And even if we don't work together, I just enjoy meeting new people that resonate with my message and they're willing to go down this road, because that is what is most important to me in my journey. Part of my purpose, my mission, is to be there for people, have these conversations with people, to get their wheels turned, to realize that there really is a way that they can achieve more happiness that consistently increases. Depending on where you are in your journey, it may be more rapid, for some people, less rapid for others. Here I go continuing to talk. One of those reasons is the neuroplasticity of the brain. So if you're under 25, you're going to have potentially much more rapid growth with this versus someone who's above 25, and then so on and so forth. So someone who's 30 versus someone who's 50 or 60, the person who's 30 is probably going to have a little bit, and part of that's because the further along we get in our journey, the more these belief structures are solidified, and the more stubborn we are to shift things because of how deeply ingrained a lot of these beliefs become. But that's okay too. I would say this is part of the point. It's part of the point of this existence. If there was no trauma, there would be no growth. And trauma comes in all shapes and sizes. It doesn't have to be something. It could be something that's extravagant in nature, some would refer to as disastrous, but really big events that were really challenging to navigate, or it could be something more simple, you know? There could be just a period of time in someone's life where they say they had a job between 18 and 21 or whatever, and at that job, they were consistently spoken to in a belittling and condescending manner by their superiors or the people that worked with them. You know, that could be the only thing in their journey thus far. That's a form of trauma. Trauma is not a negative thing. It's just something that happens. It's a part of the show here. I always say, like, you know, if there wasn't trauma, then there really wouldn't be any growth. There wouldn't be growth without challenges. And if you were to look at this as if it was like a movie or something, which if you're not there yet, that's fine. But if you were, obviously it's not the same as a Hollywood movie. But if it was a movie, you know, and you just came out of the scene opens and the guy or the girl gets the person of their dreams, the job they want, they get their house and everything, all the debts are paid off and there's no challenges and they're just sitting on a beach. I mean, maybe you'll watch it for a few minutes, just check out the scenery, but that's not a captivating story. We looked at so many different ways, but I just want to share the power of this message as much as possible. And yes, continue to do what I do. I love what I'm doing. It's so amazing, and I'm so thankful for it. And it continues to grow, and I'm excited to see where this goes. But I'm not fixated on, well, I need to make sure I get X amount of clients and that my business reaches X. No, I'm riding the wave wherever we go. I just know that these days I get up in the morning and I get going much faster than I used to. And it's not because I'm forcing myself to. It's because of the work that I've done on my mind. And I also have this resting smile on my face behind the stoic, whatever, face. And that never used to be the case. I would always walk around just, you know, just real stern. My eyes would always be like this. And sometimes they still go back that way. But like way more often, my eyes are like open and I'm open to life. And I was talking about this on one video I did earlier. The idea of surrender to me, historically speaking, was like, surrender to fucking who? I'm not surrendering to shit, you know? But there again, that's an unconscious resistance to the idea of surrender by way of indoctrinated belief in the circumstances and situations we grew through as kids. How we view the world. And one of these things is the projection moving forward of trying to achieve things and this race to the finish line. And it's a threat. The idea of surrender is a threat. It's taken unconsciously as something to fear. But that's not what it means. It can mean, you know, in war and theory, that's a perspective. You can look at surrender and say, well, I don't want to surrender, sure. But there's more uses of the word. When people in the world of the woo-woo or self-help or whatever, Eastern philosophy, talk about surrendering, they're meaning going with the flow. But it's not just as simple as putting a sticker on the back of the car that says go with the flow. For some it can be, you know. Someone could be 18, 19 and not seen hardly any trauma in their life, you know, and I mean they have some undoubtedly, but not, you know, full happy life and stuff, and you know, it's not going to be that challenging to go down the path and grow. For someone with a lot more experiences in trauma, it's going to take a little bit more work. And we're not going to be able, you know, they're not going to be able to just, boom, that's how I look at things now. So an example of this would be if we have ideas of what our day is going to be and plans of where we're going and all the things that we're going to knock out, but something pops up and it knocks us off course, makes the one thing we were going to do not possible, etc. How do we react in those moments? That's where the idea of surrender comes in, right? When something like that happens and the reaction is negative or it triggers anxiety or depression, things of this nature, then that's a sign of projected consciousness from the time we were kids of not being like, it's fear. It's like, oh fuck, well, we got to make sure that things go the way we, you know, and it's like, no, we have to allow. And even if you look at this not from a spiritual perspective, but just from, and spiritual non-dogmatic, that's not, there's no dogma in the stuff that I talk about, nothing against it, whatever. But even if we just look at this from the perspective of science, it's more advantageous to rewire our mind to go with the flow of things as they unfold, to lessen the amount of stress that we cultivate in our being. Because stress is really what you want to get rid of out of your life. Stress and too much cell phone use. These are the two things that we really want to get out of it. So what do we do to do that? So anyhow, I ended up talking way longer than I thought I was going to. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, as always, if you're someone that resonates with this message and you want to dive deeper, let's dive deeper. The reason I'm looking off, I've said this before in other content, that's when I'm looking off at just whatever, the flow of words just happens to, it just flows better. So that's just what I do. Anyhow, and hey, that's an example. This is an ongoing journey, right? That's an aspect of my subconscious that wants to let you guys know why I've been looking off this way, as opposed to just allowing the video to you know what I mean? And so this is an ongoing path that, you know, there's no done point with this. But that's okay too. If you're on board with the idea that energy never dies and you are an eternal being.
Just you white in me again. Just you white. You'll be sorry.